Welcome, Gothamites, to another episode of the Arkham Sessions. My name is Brian Ward. With me, as always, the psychologist to the superheroes, superheroines, and supervillains of Gotham City and beyond, Dr. Drea Letterman. Hello, Drea.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
I feel very good about being able to have a show.
I thought you were going to say have a shot, which is tomorrow.
I feel very good about being able to have a shot. I have my second of 2 shots tomorrow. So I'll be all dosed up. I'll have all the antibodies. I will be ready to engage with friends and family. You're already fully vaccinated. What's it like?
It feels good, and yet we're not in the clear. So there's I think there's just a normal amount of uncertainty, a little bit of tension. What's it like when we're all integrated, back doing our normal routines outside and in businesses. So I'm carrying what I would consider a pretty rational amount of anxiety about returning to business as usual. But there is a sense of relief actually after getting the second after recovering from the second dose in my situation. So hopefully you're going to feel okay and not have a large amount of side effects like I did.
That's my hope. I am hydrating and electrolyting up today because I hear that helps, but I have no idea.
Yeah, some people are saying that they have some social anxiety related to resuming some of their social and interpersonal activities, and I think that's a normal reaction. I anticipate that just getting back into those routine behaviors and being up close and personal with people, even hugging others, it's just something we haven't done in a year. So
is it normal to have anxiety over going back to work? Because I really don't want to go back to work. Now, I like my job. I love my job. I just celebrated my 17th anniversary at my job. But I don't want to go into the office because I like working from home. I like rolling out of bed and going straight to the computer and doing all that. Is it normal to be socially
totally
anxious? I don't know if it's socially anxious, but anxious about...
Well, I think you have a commute that's over an hour. Yeah. We both have commutes that could be over an hour depending on traffic. I think everyone in Los Angeles who has an hour-long commute or longer might feel some apprehension about resuming that kind of routine.
Yeah.
So no, I don't blame you for that. That sounds relatable.
Drea, I don't even remember when the last episode was that we did. I know that we covered, I believe, 10 episodes of Steven Universe. Today we're covering 5. But before we do that, you've done something.
I've done a thing.
You've done a thing
I've
recently.
done one thing that I could talk about. Oh gosh, what is time? So finally, the animated film Batman: The Long Halloween has been announced, and there is a release date for late June. I think it's June 22nd. The reason I'm excited about this is because, for one of our favorite graphic novels, The Long Halloween, is being made into an animated film. And I think DC's home entertainment and their animated films in general tend to be good. So that's exciting. This is an incredible story. It's just I think for many people who are Batman fans, this is a seminal, remarkable story in their experience with getting to know the character and learning about him as I think, just at least in my experience, learning about his psychology. So excited that I'll be a part of it. I was interviewed to serve as an on-camera commentator. So I'm talking, of course, about serial killers and murderers and what is the psychology and motivation of somebody who is interested in killing somebody every month during a major national holiday. What's all that about? And as you know, that's the concept of the book. So that was a blast, just being able to be interviewed and ask and answer questions about that. So I encourage folks to check it out. It's exciting that it is a two-parter. So part 1 will be released end of June, and I haven't seen the release date for part 2, but that's pretty exciting.
Has there been a two-parter since Dark Knight Returns?
Good question. I don't think there has.
I think that might be the first one since Dark Knight Returns. And Jensen Ackles from Supernatural will be playing Batman. That's crazy, and it almost sounds appropriate. Like he can. I think he could pull off a great Batman voice. I'm excited to hear it. May I ask, because you mentioned you were excited about it, what is it about the killing? Or, I'm sorry. What is it about? What is it about Long Halloween?
I thought you were going to ask me what is it about killing every holiday.
No, but, well, that too. I mean, you got to buy the Blu-ray.
You have to buy the Blu-ray, and by the way, these are extras, like these are featurettes. So I think you either need to buy the physical DVD or buy it on demand to see them. But sorry, go ahead.
You mean your interviews are not interspersed within the context of the film itself? I thought they were trying something new. So what is it about Long Halloween that you love so much? Because you said that it was one of your favorites. You talked about the excitement of it. What is it about this particular story by Jeff Loeb, illustrated by Tim Sale, that you are so enamored with?
Well, it's all hands on deck, or when you see almost all the rogues, you see all the main villains have some role in this, and I just love stories. I mean, Hush does this, and Jeff Loeb might be known for this. There's just that cool saga where you have these touch points, and Batman is, through his quest to find this killer, he's encountering, interviewing, harassing sometimes these individuals who are the rogues. They're the outsiders. And in the Long Halloween in particular, the villains are the real villains are the mob criminals and bosses. The villains who I think are presumed to be feared and presumed to be evil are the outcasts of Gotham City, who, for a number of reasons, are under-resourced, are underappreciated, have these deficits, or even in many cases, deformities that sort of, they're the freaks of the city. And I just appreciate that the story has us follow Batman's interactions with them, and he shows a great deal of compassion for them, and we realize that they're really not the sources of evil here. The people who are the ones who are evil, or the ones who are, I'd say, the true villains, are the greedy ones.
The crime family.
Yeah, they're the ones looking to have power, looking to have money, looking to have all the resources. And it's just interesting that this story just really helps us see the nuances of good and evil, and it's complicated. So I think it's and of course there's like this huge surprise at the end that I'm not going to say on the air.
And we don't know if they kept it. We don't know.
I do.
Hush was different.
Yeah, I will say there is a slight turn here.
Okay. All right. I'm excited to see it. I don't know that I'm as enamored with the book that as you are, but everything you're saying gets me excited to like see it brought to the screen. I don't know. Maybe it's Tim Sale. I don't really like Tim Sale's artwork. I know that that's sort of blasphemous in certain circles of Batman fans, but I just don't. I don't dig the more impressionistic art style of Tim Sale.
Well, I don't either, and I will say that the animation style for this film is not based on Tim Sale.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Cool. You want to get into Steven Universe?
Yeah, let's take the sharp turn.
Yeah, we took 5 more episodes because you said in the last episode that the one thing you couldn't wait to cover was Pearl. because you feared you might be Pearl if you took a quiz. You took a quiz. We're going to talk about that in a second.
I did take a quiz.
But B, it looks like this is the very episode in which we'll be able to talk about Pearl, because in the 5 episodes that we watched, the Stephen the Sword Fighter, Lion 2, the movie, Beach Party, Rose's Room, and Coach Stephen, Pearl was heavily featured in at least 2 of them. So I think it is safe to say that after 20 episodes, you can probably talk at great length about Pearl and your thoughts on Pearl. For starters, let's talk about why you are afraid that you would be considered Pearl. If you were to break her down and give the parallels between your 2 characters, what would those parallels be?
I read something recently. I think it was the fandom wiki that describes Pearl, and it does say that many viewers do not like her at first because of her presentation, because of her outward characteristics. And I appreciated, and I think this is going to happen to us. We will see her complexities and will feel maybe closer to her and will relate to her better. But I do think from what we've seen so far, she is somebody who's overly perfectionistic. She comes across as kind of the know-it-all. She's overly organized, has almost a fixation on cleanliness, tidiness, and organization. Everything has to be in its right spot. She is, I think, to the degree that she has all these characteristics, it comes across as very rigid. You know, things have to be a certain way. The expectations are a certain way. And if things aren't to these standards, which by the way are high, then she can get flustered or she can get frustrated and she can get angry at others. We haven't seen her really blow up at people, but actually no, we have seen her kind of explode at Stephen, at Amethyst in particular. There's a tension between Pearl and Amethyst, and I think that for me is something that I've been mindful of. I know that I can come across as overly, rigid. In school, I've been called bossy, which I don't think that's really a criticism. It was meant as a criticism, but right. It's a little bit painful to be evaluated because you have high standards. But as we'll see with Pearl, there's some reasons why she may act this way. Some of it is a part of her personality and some of it is a response to her experiences. So she is we've talked about Amethyst. She's just as complex as Amethyst. And when we get around to talking about Garnet, similarly, I'm sure we'll better understand the nuances and layers, the dimensions to Pearl.
Well, and I think it's important to understand that, like any good team, each one of them has qualities that are necessary to accomplishing their missions.
Right.
And so you need, if you're going to have a character like Amethyst, you need to have a character like Pearl to help balance it. And I can understand why people don't like Pearl immediately, especially if they're looking at this from the perspective of Stephen, who is our proxy. If you're looking at it through the eyes of a child, and hopefully if you're an adult, you're sort of getting that childlike wonder back. It's very infectious when it comes to Stephen. The last person you want to hang out with is the one that seems more like the mom or the older sister that is, I don't want to say bossy, but like you said, very rigid, very strict, very my way is the right way. I just don't...
Well, I think that people believe that kind of zaps the fun away.
Yeah.
if you're not spontaneous,
Yeah.
if you're not seeking joy, if you're not collaborating, because sometimes she's not really willing to be operating as a team. She kind of wants to domineer.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's not sometimes, especially for someone like Steven, who is developing his personality and still making sense of his gem, this can be off-putting.
Yeah. So you and I, we have known each other for quite some time now. We have lived with one another for quite some time now. You and I have picked up traits from one another at this point, or at the very least, we can expect certain things from one another. And I can already tell you're wondering where I'm getting at.
Yeah,
with
what
this.
are you talking about?
Stephen the Sword Fighter, the first episode that we watched, is the group. They're all hanging out in the living room, and they are watching this film franchise that is completely unrealistic, and Pearl can't stop talking during it and criticizing the sword work because she is in fact a sword fighter. And so it's funny because when you and I watch movies, I am constantly looking out for the psychology, and I'm constantly looking to you for information about the psychology, and you are regularly giving it to me. But I am regularly doing the same sort of thing when it comes to filmmaking techniques and other bits of useless trivia. And
yeah, there's a great deal of technical commentary happening when we watch anything. I'm talking about the emotional intelligence of characters and the accuracy of mental illness and different psychological concepts. You're talking about various things, anything from the production of the movie, the effects, the stunts, to things like this, like what they're trying to. We should note
for the folks at home listening, we're not regular chatterboxes during movies. I tend to stay very quiet. I prefer to stay quiet, but occasionally we'll both throw down some trivia, or if you see something that's just wackadoodle, psychologically speaking,
then I'll say that's wackadoodle. That's the word I'll say is like, hey, that is pretty that is clinically wackadoodle.
Yeah. So Drea, looking at these 20 episodes, tell us what you've gleaned about Pearl.
What's interesting is that when she ends up retreating to her gem, there's this sadness about that. Mm-hmm. Stephen is waiting for her to reemerge, to transform, and I think we get the sense that okay, she really is loved and needed and valued, especially by him. Mm-hmm. So we see, and that seems to be one of the lessons for him, is this person who might be he might see her as overly controlling and rigid and less fun.
Yeah.
Here in this episode, she's seen as like incredibly skillful, graceful, powerful. She's the one who has sword fighting skills.
Yeah.
And he's completely enamored with this notion that he too can learn from this. He can be just like her.
But he doesn't want to learn the boring stuff first. He wants to go straight into
the fancy moves.
Yeah.
And we get the sense that he cares about her in that way, that he looks up to her, he sees her as a mentor, and he very much respects her. But she disappears for a period of time, and he misses her. And I think he also realizes that he cares about her in a way that he may not have paid attention to before.
And he keeps trying to make the holographic version of her the real Pearl. He keeps trying to sort of initiate the personality that he knows and loves through this hologram. And it's just not working. It's never going to work, which leads you to believe there's genuinely something about Pearl that just can't be replaced.
Right. One thing I think is noticed much later, the episode where Pearl is essentially alone. This is when Garnet and Amethyst combine to create Sugalit.
Yeah.
This amazing, mega, powerful
the
gem.
anti opal.
Yeah. Thinking about it, of course, if Amethyst and Garnet combine, you're going to have the wildness, the aggressive, the powerful elements of Amethyst, sort of the rule breaking, out of control elements of Amethyst, and then you have the hugeness, the boldness of Garnet.
Yeah.
And you combine that, and you kind of get this big, monstrous, uncontrollable figure who ends up doing the job. I think some quests require that element of power, that element of size.
Yeah.
And yet they get, as Sugalit, they get so out of control. They get so, I think, wrapped up in their combined personality that it's Pearl who essentially has to de-escalate and fight them in order to bring them back, to kind of ground them, but also kind of bring them back to their stable and standard personalities. That taught me a lot about Pearl. It reminded me that aside from this perfectionistic, overly organized sense of self, that she really, really wants to be seen as important. Mm-hmm. She wants to be, I think she wants to, she's interesting. She sings a song about it. She wants to be strong in the real way. Mm-hmm. And I found that song so interesting. What does it mean to be strong in the real way?
I could show you how to be strong in the real way, and I know that we can be strong in the real way. And I want to inspire you, I want to be your rock, and when I talk it lights a fire in you.
And so her words juxtaposed with Stephen on the beach lifting weights and doing squats and coaching everyone else to kind of like get tough and get big and be strong physically. It's so interesting because I get the sense that being strong in the real way is not about size. It's not about physical strength. It's not about muscles.
Yeah.
It's not about force. We get the sense that she has been seeking this kind of validation for a long time. Can you see me as someone who's valued in this group? Because I think, generally speaking, a gem is a superhero. They have these characteristics and qualities that are about these superpowers. And there is a great amount of focus on force and physical power and dominance. And I think what she's been saying this whole time is we must see the value of this kind of strength, the strengths of determination and the mind, the strengths of problem solving, the strengths of intelligence, the strengths of control. Like, when have these characteristics ever really been uplifted?
Yeah.
And that was, I think that was a moment that was really, I think I felt that moment as like, oh, okay, this is really meaningful for the story, because it's telling the audience as well, you may not really be valued for some of your strengths. And you may feel like you just want that visibility and that recognition. So I think that message can be just incredibly needed
Yeah.
for many people. I mean, I definitely felt like, oh, okay, I'm seen. Like I'm a small person and I feel like, you know, sometimes just having knowledge and knowing stuff people don't really care about that as much as, you know, but your presence, but, you know, but you're strong, but, you know, you're all some sort of outward things that matter. Yeah. So I think that was a strong episode for me.
So I want to know your opinion of the performance, the song. The thing I've learned about Pearl is that she is full of grace. She is full of form. She is full of performance. And I think it says something when she's desperate to be seen and sings a song about it, when, you know, we really haven't heard too many original songs. It's not like every episode has a musical number in it. So the fact that she takes this opportunity to do this duet with Steven, albeit separate, and I can only presume she's actually singing it, because Steven says that he's, you know, the people that he is coaching and trying to get fit complain that he's not getting fit himself. And he says, what are you talking about? I've been doing just as much work as you have. And they're like, no, you haven't. You've been singing some weird song. So I'm presuming
like she's actually singing.
I'm presuming that she's also actually singing. And it says something that when you've got characters like Amethyst, who is an impulsive actor, just someone who I can't imagine that Amethyst would actually be graceful or lyrical enough to perform a song. And Garnet doesn't strike me as that type either. But Pearl is absolutely the type that would, in an emotional moment like this, break out into song. And so I thought that was a little bit that I learned about Pearl, or I guess that I realized about Pearl.
Well, I appreciate your use of the word performance. And I totally agree. This has widened my perspective on this too, because there is that level of hiding behind something. And we've talked about perfectionism quite a bit already on this episode. I know we've talked about it in previous episodes. Usually perfectionism is some kind of front, some kind of effort that keeps somebody busy, keeps somebody fixated on things that they can control in order to avoid or hide from other experiences. Psychologists often say that perfectionism is the self-made prison, that people who are, and by the way, perfectionism is not a mental illness, it's a personality trait. But when we see perfectionism as being so extreme, you know, someone with really high standards, someone with these unreachable expectations almost, this could be someone like Pearl, who is a high achiever, but is also an artist. You know, she's graceful, she's skillful. She has, these are real talents, you know, let's not get that twisted. She truly is really good at all these things. And yet it's like she's not good enough. So she has these feelings of low self-worth kind of like packed in there somewhere. And often perfectionism is, I'd say, the most harmful when it is locked into trauma. In other words, it is a way that someone can thwart further damage. So if I just extend myself into a perfect world, have control over everything, then I can, you know, sort of keep myself safe from any kind of rupture or hurt or pain. And I believe, and I hope we get more of the story, but I believe Pearl has not yet recovered from the loss of Steven's mother.
Speaking of Steven's mother, I don't know how deep we want to go into this just yet, but in the episode Rose's Room, we really got kind of a peek into Rose potentially. Or I want to ask, because basically Stephen is desperate to have a little alone time. He wants a room of his own. I guess up to this point, he has had a room. It's that bedroom where he keeps all of his toys and junk and, whatever. But it's not an opportunity for him to escape the others. And he does wish to have a room to himself, and it unlocks a door that to this point has always been locked. And that is Rose's room. And we've seen that the other gems have very specific rooms. They're not rooms. They're more like dimensions. They are places that are built just for them to have their private time and their space. I find myself wondering about the lore of the gems, and I mean the gemstones themselves. So we saw that when he retreats into Rose's old room, everything is rose colored and it's very cloud like. It's very heavenly. It's what people imagine heaven to be like. And he can conjure simply with a wish anything he wants. Of course, those things are all, I don't want to say fraudulent. They're all illusions. They're all, he wants a donut, but he can't eat the donut because it just poofs away. Mm-hmm. And he wants to do any number of, he wants a quadruple sized bunk bed, so 4 bunk beds appear on top of one another. He wants a slide and it appears. Now, is this, you think, Rose's room? Do you think that she could conjure anything you want? Or do you think that it's the gem within his belly trying to give him the room that he wants for his personality?
That's a good question. I imagine there's some sort of interaction there that very well could have been the dimension that she called home, or she called her room.
Yeah.
But interacting with his abilities, it sort of became, I almost said the war room, which it kind of did, but I don't know, the holodeck, like it's just sort of what you dream up can manifest.
Yeah.
So in many ways, I think that she likely interacted with that room in a similar way, but she probably had some intentionality about it.
Yeah, like I wonder if each of them interacts with the room the same way. Like I wonder if Amethyst's room started out similarly, but then became what she built for herself.
Right.
And Garnet
and maybe,
and Pearl.
Yeah, maybe what Stephen is supposed to do is make it his own.
Yeah.
But given that he's experiencing this level of power for the first time, he's just manifesting all sorts of random things that come to mind.
And one of the things that comes to mind is town and missions, like, trouble. It's insightful because it's like, it's all he knows. All he knows is the same little beachfront town and trouble, and the gems coming to save the day. And so it is sort of insightful into him, but it also might be telling us a little bit about how the gemstones themselves work. I don't know. Maybe this is the first, it's taken 19 episodes, but maybe we're seeing a darker side to what the gemstones are.
Well, I did like the eeriness of the scenes involving the town. It had elements of, I don't know, sort of the body snatchers.
Oh, totally.
Like it had those hints of horror. And I think that was meaningful.
No one really interacted with Stephen the way he's accustomed, except maybe Onion, who never really reacts with any kind of
we need like
response.
I know we've had at least one. We need an Onion episode that's just like a full deep dive into the psychology of Onion. I'm sure there's some dark stuff.
Well, of course. Well, because his father showed up on the boat. Remember, in the episode, with the onion trade, Onion's father shows up on a boat and then just disappears again. So you get the sense that like Onion might as well be an orphan. Who's super quiet and
he must have a diminished sense of self-worth, and he's compensating.
Or he is 100% self-sufficient, which is sort of what I get. I get the sense because he just kind of hangs out by himself, does nothing with really anyone else, doesn't really even talk to anyone else, but is somehow able to survive and does so. I don't know.
Is he an onion?
Well, his name is Onion.
Well, I know, but is he an onion?
I don't know if he's an actual onion. He might be. I don't know if he's an actual onion. I mean, we're talking about a TV show who has like a family whose last name is Pizza. We got a character actually named Sour Cream. Maybe there's maybe he's an onion. So looking back at these 5 episodes, do you feel satisfied that you are starting to really learn more about these characters, specifically Pearl?
Yes. And I think it's the episode where she sort of like she builds the sense of like she empowers herself to face Amethyst and Garnet as the combined gem. Like there's this, of course, a moment where she is discouraged and she doesn't know if she can do it. And she remembers that, again, being strong in the real way doesn't mean she has to be the strongest physically, but that she can problem solve and craft and essentially mastermind her way through this really difficult problem. She can't punch her way. And this is why she's upset with the other two. You can't just punch your way through your problems. And I think this is why I admire her more, is because she's showing us that she has to find her sense of value from other things that she knows that she's good at. And ultimately, she figures out how to defeat this Goliath. It's a great scene, and it teaches Stephen as well that you can essentially lift weights every day, all day, but that doesn't mean that you have proven your worth as a gem. Yeah. That's not what this is about.
Yeah.
I think it teaches us to value diversity. It teaches us to value different strengths and talents. But it also says a lot about somebody's sense of self-worth, and that even for someone like Pearl, who is so graceful and so perfect and is really on top of everything, she's not. She's struggling. She's not great at everything. And I think seeing that side of her, the sense of weakness, is realistic.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about the gems themselves, and something that really struck me in the episodes that we watched this time, specifically in the episode Beach Party, because it's an episode where in the beginning, the gems are defeating a monster, as they tend to do. There's a significant amount of damage done to the town, specifically to Fish Stew Pizza. And they are banned from Fish Stew Pizza. Now, this devastates Stephen because he loves Fish Stew Pizza. And I don't think he's banned specifically, but certainly the other 3 gems are. And they don't care because...
because it's Fish Stew Pizza.
Well, but here's where I'm going with it. It occurs to me that they are so alien, the 3 of them. Mm-hmm. They only focus on their mission of defeating monsters. right? A monster comes to town. They defeat that monster no matter the cost. And the cost is usually in some sort of damage to the town. And they don't seem to care about the people living there, and they don't seem to care about the town itself. They simply have a very narrow view of what their mission is, and that is to defeat the monster. Now, Steven is the difference between them. And I'm wondering if you get that same take. Have you seen in these 20 episodes, have you ever seen these gems care about the people of the town?
Not necessarily, and not beyond their interest to protect the town from these invaders and threats. Steven is unique because he's half gem. So he might have some
humanity.
He has these human qualities that makes him yearn for belongingness. He seeks friendship and bonding. Even with Onion. I mean, all of us can see that Onion is wackadoodle. What did I say before? Wackadoodle. No, even like with Onion, he wants to get to know Onion. He wants to help Onion. He seeks relationships outside of this family.
And they don't.
No, they don't. And I get the sense that they don't think that they have to. That's not their purpose. That's not fulfilling for them. And that may be okay. But for him, that's not enough for him. He's searching for his belongingness in this limbo. Like he's sort of managing and navigating two different cultures, the gem culture and the human culture. And if I can't be the first, but I know I'm not the first person to wonder if this is somehow representing the experience of biracial individuals or bicultural individuals who are sort of in between two worlds.
Steven specifically?
Yeah, I think Steven specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. I just found myself fascinated by this idea that, and in looking back in retrospect, it just occurred to me that they've never really, I'm not even sure they see their job as protecting the town. I think the town is kind of in their way.
Oh.
I think, I don't think their job is really to protect the town. I think their job is just to kill the monsters. It's just, it's like, oh, the monsters show up, we defeat them. But
and their job is to raise Steven or to sort of like.
Well, and I'm curious about that too, because they didn't ask to do that. Like that was Rose's, that was her choice. That was her decision to give up her life to have a child. I don't know how much, if any, say the other three had in that. And I don't know. I mean, I'm now starting to ask questions about this relationship that I really hope are answered down the road. I'd like to know how they even feel about the fact that they have essentially become babysitters.
Yeah. Well, from the wiki, and I'm trying not to read too much ahead.
Yeah, don't do that.
Well, it does say that out of the crystal gems, Pearl is the most poorly adjusted to life on Earth, being unaware of human social conventions and culture. So we may see things like lightheartedness, jokes, games. Remember his birthday?
Yeah, she doesn't understand that.
Yeah, all sorts of customs and even mundane things that are part of the human experience aren't things that Pearl really cares about or sees as important. And I think we will see her pessimistic view of humanity, or just sort of her like outside othering of humanity. Yeah. That may be more prominent. I think what you're picking up on is something that we're gonna see more of.
Good. So ultimately, how do you feel about these last 5 episodes?
I enjoyed them. I think they're very strong. I also think this show continues to be wholesome and, I don't know, simple. That's not necessarily negative thing. But it tends to have, its themes seem to me like very obvious and relatable.
Yeah.
And I don't, you're saying, and this is no judgment of you, but you're picking up on the exact things that I would see. And I don't necessarily think that it's because you've spent so much time with me and you have way more information about psychological science now. But I do think that's the kind of show this is.
Surface level.
Yeah,
You don't really have to scratch too deep. I mean, each episode is 12 minutes, so you can't really afford to scratch all that deep. Although I will say, for the first time, I feel like we are starting to get sort of what the fans all said would happen, which is that the deeper you get into the show, the more you're going to pick up. And sure enough, 20 episodes in, I've got questions about whether these 3 gems even want Steven there. And so I can see it. I see where it's not necessarily where it's going, but I can see where it gets deeper as you go on, even in 12-minute bites. I can see where we probably would have a lot to say about the series as a whole. And whether we get to cover that is entirely up to our listeners. But yeah, this 5 episodes sort of made me appreciate covering Steven Universe a little bit more. I'm looking forward to next time. I'm hoping next time is soon. But
it will be. It will be. Here's what I will say for folks listening who want more, I don't know, they just want more depth, or they're like, let's say more about how perfectionism is linked to trauma, say more about grief and loss and how that's related to this kind of personality. Wanda from WandaVision is an example of that. And I've written an article about the psychology of Wanda from WandaVision and how she is struggling to recover from a very similar loss in her life, and how her actions in WandaVision, at the surface seem just, purely controlling, if not absolutely abusive to an entire town. But when you look deeper into her motivations and see where this is coming from, there's a lot more there. And it's something I think that can be very relatable, especially the way it manifests, kind of similar to our experience of this loneliness and isolation during COVID. What do we have control over? How do we kind of create an ideal world for ourselves? And how does that get far away from us and from our humanity? Anyhow, so that's published, and folks can find it on Fandom.
Nice. Good. Nice way to throw in a plug there at the end.
Right?
You're keeping busy. And you got more of those coming that you just can't talk about yet because they haven't published them. But folks, when I say this, I don't say it with any hyperbole. She's genuinely writing what would be chapters of books for fandom, and they're all available to you for free. So, when someone's like, yeah, write us 1,000-word essay on WandaVision, she then gives them 9 pages, and they're all deep and they're all interesting. So you should check them out, and they're completely free.
Thank you.
So yeah, Drea, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you online?
You can find all that stuff on drdreapsychology.com, and occasionally I post stuff on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @ArkhamAsylumDoc, as is my Instagram handle.
You can find me on Twitter @bward028. You can find me on Instagram, @b_ward028. You can find us both as @Arkham Sessions on Twitter and @The Arkham Sessions on Instagram. Come find us on Facebook, and come find us on Patreon. And maybe you can even get a shout out like Isaiah Atchin, Dr. Girlfriend, my dad, Carl Ward, Leslie Brownlee, Christopher Bauer, Michael Pruitt, Ian Stanton, Eric O'Sullivan, Zachary Hunter, Verdigree, Maria Diego, John Henry, Dr. Jerome Anderson, Samir Bhakta, and of course, our good friend, Todd Stashwick. Until next time, I'm Brian Ward.
I'm Dr. Drea Letamendi.
And together we are
The Arkham Sessions.